Knives. It's a pretty controversial subject. Anybody on YouTube's got their own collection of knives and their own opinions about what is best and uh, what's good for them. And I'm just going to give you a little bit of an overview on my views, what works for me. Keep in mind that what my philosophy is might be different than a lot of other people. So basically here I've got some of my knives laid out. Obviously there's a lot more in my collection. Like any prepping minded guy, I've been collecting knives since I was in high school. Really took off when I was in college. I was one of those kids. I went to school in Olean, and I still live in Olean. So, it didn't take me long to realize that there was a legendary company right in town. And as far as K-Bar, our own legendary local company, known, throughout the whole survival and bushcraft community. Really, up until recently, they've been mainly known for that pattern knife, the Marine Corps combat knife. In fact, the term K-bar is used interchangeably. Other companies make that pattern, mil-spec pattern knife, but it's always referred to as a K-bar. But very few of them are anymore. So I wanted to get one of those, and actually I think it was either a Blackie Collins book that I had on knife throwing. Yeah, I was one of those kids too. And they had noted that the K-bar was the most indestructible knife they had found. So, of course, I bought a couple of them. And get off the computer! Oh, hang on a second. Sorry about that. Cat on the laptop. Not a good combination. But yeah, so that was the reason that I bought my first K-bars. Not really a good reason, I'll be the first to admit. Kind of emotional reason, kind of not really thinking about carrying a knife. I had also at that point started carrying a Gerber Gator, which I don't have with me right now. Which was actually in a lot of ways a much more ideal knife. I learned how to sharpen knives with that knife, and it was small enough that I could carry it around, and big enough that when I went camping, I could take it with me and do any number of different tasks around camp. I still wasn't on the bandwagon of carrying a fixed blade when I was out hiking, because the fixed blades that I had were these big military knives, and I just didn't see the point. There's a lot of people now who say absolutely you have to have a big chopper, to do those more boisterous tasks, and I kind of evolved a separate way. I don't baton, which is good because, anyone will tell you that the Marine combat pattern K-bar isn't really the best knife for batoning. It's really easy to see people who just snap it right off at the handle. Along with that, I've got an Ontario, which is another local knife. I've got a lot of knife companies right around me. I've got K-Bar in town. About a half an hour to the north is where Ontario is based, in Franklinville. And then about a half an hour to the southwest, I've got Case. I don't have any of their knives here. But I have a lot of foreign knives. You'll see a lot of these Moras and Swiss knives. And a made in China Camillus down there, so why would I do that? Well, when I was putting this collection together, basically it evolved, basically, always looking for a new and slightly better knife, and I'll be honest, that K-bar hasn't seen a lot of field use. I've got another one upstairs that definitely has, seen more, but not a ton. Like I said, I didn't want to carry. When I was out backpacking, I wasn't carrying that knife with me. I'm really conscious of what weight I'm carrying, and it was pretty heavy. I didn't carry the Ontario there much either, but I've got several of those Ontarios attached to mainline like bug out and survival bags, because that is a fairly decent and robust survival knife. It's nothing super fancy. $40 or $50. That's the thing. I'm really not into spending hundreds and hundreds of dollars on knives. You know, it's a fairly basic implement, and spending $250 on a knife, I'm not going to want to treat it uh, roughly. Basically, I'm going to want to be babying that knife, and that's going to affect what I'm doing in the field, and I don't like that at all. Okay, so I don't know, probably about 5 or 6 years ago, I read 98.6 Degrees, Cody Lundine's book, and in there, he talks about more about the grind on his knives, the Scandinavian grind, and I was impressed because I'd never heard of it up until that point. And the great thing about it that it was easy to sharpen in the field. So I went out and I got this red handle clipper right here. Okay, and I carried that for several years backpacking. And not only was it cheap, not only was it really sharp, not only did it do a lot of everything I'd been doing with the folding knives up until that point. It was a fixed blade. It's not a full tang knife, but I wasn't batoning, as I said. So it basically did everything I needed it to do, and it felt really stout compared to the folders. So when I was putting together a bunch of different kits, that particular model, Mora clipper, let's see, I get on that, had been discontinued, and they went up here to the companion. Now, when you look at this one, you're like, wow, that knife is brand new. I've had this knife for a couple of years now, and you're right, that knife hasn't seen the light of day. That knife has been stowed in a stock and forget kit, which is great. I put it in the kit. There's a Doan magnesium bar cocoon to it, and basically I just pulled it out for this video. Use this one, store this one, and it's brand new when I need it. Now the companion MG, they made the tang a little bit longer, so that's good, I guess. Like I said, I haven't broken this one. You can find videos on YouTube of destruction tests on the old clippers, and they put up with quite a bit, in their time. At some point, I wanted to move on from the clipper. The companion is basically exactly the same thing, and I moved up, and what I carry now when I'm out hunting and backpacking is the bushcraft triflex. It's a little bit thicker blade, okay? The grip is a little bit tackier. Some people really don't like the handle for reasons of carrying it with a reverse grip, or using it with a reverse grip, carrying it with a reverse grip. All right, and I haven't run into any issues with that, though. I don't do a lot of reverse grip stuff, I guess, though, so there probably accounts for that. A couple other folders. This Camillus is something I picked up very recently. Back in the day, I had one of the old Camillus Cuda, the original ones, the ATS 34 ones that had the Tonto blade, and I really liked it, and it was either lost or it was stolen. Sometimes I fantasize about the fact that I'm digging around at my parents' house and I find it in some of my old stuff, but I'm pretty sure it's gone for good. And I saw that they had reissued them. These are, of course, AUS 8 cheaper versions, made in China, but they're similar to the old ones in construction, and my tastes in knife shapes have changed. When I bought that Tonto one, I thought I bought it because it looked really cool, looked tactical, and since then, since I've been sharpening my knives and using knives every day, I like the drop point better. So I thought that was really great, and I just picked one up. It was on clearance. I think they were $15. So that was a real good price. Walmart was blowing them out. I couldn't believe it when I saw it, the red sticker. And I was like, I'll buy all of them. So I bought 3 or 4 of them. But yeah, I've been EDCing it for a little while. I don't my EDC is mainly weekends because I don't EDC during the week because I can't for my job. So it hasn't seen a ton of use, and it's just been since Christmas. So I haven't been out in the woods a lot with this cold snap we've had. So that'll get some use. If it falls apart, I'll let you know. This is another tool option. I haven't talked much about tool options. There's a lot of people who don't carry a fixed blade, and I used to be one of them while backpacking. And you just get away with what you got on your multi-tool. Normally I carry a Leatherman Wave. This is one of my old crunches. My Wave is out in the car right now. So the Wave has a decent amount of tools on it. The crunch is kind of tool light, I'd like to put it, but it does have the vice grips, which can come in handy. I think that it has never gotten the respect that it deserves. And I think because it's not a flip open tool, you have to kind of assemble it when you open it up. But I think that it really shows the kind of innovation that Leatherman had come up with, in that the idea was, at the time this came out, Kershaw had like a needle nose vice grips tool, but it didn't really compact down. It folded, but it was still just it was like a pair of needle nose pliers in your pocket. And this thing folds up almost to the exact same shape as the original personal survival tool. So it still incorporates the utility of like vice grips kind of locking pliers. So that's really cool. So I put that out there. But the Swiss Army knife is another option. You see a lot of people, a lot of backpackers get by basically with a Swiss Army knife. They're not really doing any woodcraft. They just want a tool to help them if they are, cutting open packets of food, or maybe some whittling, very real light stuff. And this Swiss Army Farmer is really great. It's got a nice blade. It's got a nice punch, which is a useful, the awl, I mean, is really useful. And an Aaron Ralston special wood bone saw, It definitely doesn't take the place of a full-size saw. Generally, when I'm backpacking, I'll carry a Sven saw. But this is a good little backup or a little fine task kind of saw if I was, notching something or something along those lines. So, but basically, that's basically my story, is kind of a transition from the big heavy knives. And if I need to chop something, I generally carry an Ontario machete. I don't carry that when I'm backpacking, but I've got an Ontario machete. I believe in different tools for different jobs. The one tool option that you see people talking about a lot, where you want one really stout knife that can basically do the job of a saw, an axe, and a knife. Master of none, jack of all trades, master of none, basically. I don't subscribe to that theory. Okay, that a bushcraft knife and a survival knife need to be completely separate and have totally separate characteristics. I don't really subscribe to that. I subscribe to the theory that a knife is a tool. It's a very primitive tool going back, and any one of these here is light years ahead of a stone implement or a bronze implement. The steel in any one of them, carbon or stainless, and I prefer, carbon steel. As you see, every single one of these models here is a carbon steel model, except for the folders, and they're all stainless. It's really hard to find a carbon folder. I have an Opinel and a couple, you might have seen some of the other videos, I've got a couple of those Ford Peasants that are carbon steel knives that are folders. But I'm not really in love with either one of those. I think that they're neat. I like the way the Opinel locks, but I don't like the way that the handle is just a piece of wood. And the Ford Peasant I don't know if I made a mistake in buying the aluminum handle one, but it doesn't feel very good in my hand. It's really thin, But, they're nice knives. I was EDCing the Sword, but for an EDC, I don't like it very much. It's good as a backup to a fixed blade in a kit, and so that's basically where they went. It's a pretty good quality knife for a $14 knife. Now, the reason I say I like carbon steel has nothing to do with striking it with flint or chert in my area to make sparks. I mean, that is definitely something that I'm aware of. The reason I like carbon steel is I like the way it sharpens. Okay, and that was one of the main things that I like the Scandinavian grind of the Moras, is that it's very easy to sharpen it with just a stone. And what I've settled on, I don't have it to show you here. It's a Smith's Diamond Hone. They have it at Walmart for like 15 bucks. It's just two-sided, coarse and fine. Not really complicated. No need to make it overcomplicated. And then I just throw one of those into my kits, and I can put freshen that edge right up out in the field with that. And the Scandinavian grind makes it very easy. You just kind of put it flat. You can see kind of some of these ones that have been touched up. You just kind of put it flat on the edge and push, and you can really restore that edge without, any kind of, I've got a Lansky system that I've used for some of my pocket knives, and it works great, but it's not something that you carry around with you in the field, and there's all kinds of stuff you can get. I've been really eyeing that Work Sharp. I don't know if wouldn't use it for the Scandi grind ones, but these other ones I think could probably use some touching up from time to time with something like that. In my area, a lot of these bigger knives, they're 1095, which is a decent steel. There's a lot of super steels. I really don't get into all the different steels. Scandinavian carbon steel. Like I was saying, any of them are good compared to a stone. Any of them are good compared to bronze or iron. The primitive sorts of cutting tools, a bone shard. Any of these blow that away. The cheapest Chinese pot steel, is going to be superior in a lot of ways as a material. So we really live kind of in a golden age as far as that goes. Of just high quality components in our tools. So that's basically been my philosophy. I've kind of come full circle from the bigger, heavier knives. I wasn't thinking clearly. Now there's a lot of people who favor those knives who have good reasons. I didn't have good reasons when I got into the big chunky knives. I still have them. I might take them out from time to time if I go to camp, but really the ones that I really like, I hate to say it, living in the middle of this knife belt down here in western New York and northwestern PA, I really like the value of these Mora knives. And like I said, you could just buy them. I last I heard this Companion MG was $14 or $15. Can't beat it. Can't beat it with a stick. And it's not American made, but it's made in a Western country that has some idea about quality control. So, I try not to dwell too much on that. The American companies are making a fine product. It's just not the product I want, is what I've come to realize. And if K-Bar starts out with a knife that is similar to this, or similar to this, or similar to this, I'll be all over it. You'll hear about it here first, okay? But right now, the nicest one I've seen recently is the BK16. A friend of mine picked one of those up, and that was a nice knife. It's not too big, it's not too small. The BK2, I mean, it's hefty. I like it in the feel in my hand, but it is not what these are, And sharpening them, I could kind of try in the field to freshen it up with that sharpener that I have, but I'd probably just mess it up, to be perfectly honest. So, yep, that's my overall kind of a philosophy with knives. Thanks for watching. Talk to you later.